the idea of seeing the world through revelation and seeing wahi revelation through the world was the way of our scholars all throughout history. The idea of connecting revelation to reality and to not teach Islam as an abstract idea, as a list of theological points that we memorize, or to convert Islam or to limit it to rituals, and forgetting that Islam has something to say about our current reality as it is unfolding. That is today, yesterday, and tomorrow. And therefore it is the duty of the scholar, and the duty of the student of knowledge, and duty of the people of ilm to do their very best to connect people and their everyday movements on the ground with the Quran that they recite and the prophetic way. And this was the way of our predecessors. Whenever they would see an event that was clearly a prophecy of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam coming to reality, that scholar would say, صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذ قال كذا وكذا. Our Prophet spoke the truth when he said such and such. So they always had their eyes peeled to see what was going on the ground and how does it relate to what we were taught in our scriptures. Now, sometimes that link is very obvious and clear. The link between wahi, revelation, and what has just happened on the ground socially or politically or elsewhere. An example of this would be when the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, when he was carrying his grandson Al-Hasan, and he said, إِنَّ بِنِي هَذَا سَيِّدٌ وَلَعَلَّ اللَّهَ أَنْ يُصْلِحَ بِهِ بَيْنَ فِئَتَيْنِ عَظِيمَتَيْنِ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. He carried this young boy, and he said, this child of mine is a leader. And it may be that a day will come when Allah Almighty will unify through him two huge conflicting parties of the Muslims. So the scholars, they look at this narration and they say that's an example of a prophecy that has definitely happened. 100%, it's unequivocal, there's no doubt. And this was when Al-Hasan later on in his life, many years after the Prophet ﷺ died, and he became the Khalifa of the Muslims, and there was a schism or there was a fracture in the body of the Muslims, and so Al-Hasan decided through his wisdom and maturity to give up leadership to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu in order to bring the Muslims together. And he did that, he gave up his position, and the Muslims were unified again, and it was known in the books of history as Amul Jama'ah, the year of unity. So the scholars would look at that hadith and say, that's an example of a prophecy that has definitely happened. Then you have other prophecies of the Prophet ﷺ where the prediction is a little bit more general. So it's difficult to say that it is specifically referring to this phase or that phase. It may be a bit of this and that. Like, one example, when the Prophet ﷺ prophesied that knowledge will be removed. Scholars will die. Repression will happen. Tyranny will prevail. Ignorance will spread. Musical instruments normalized in Muslim circles. Which era is it referring to? And this is when the scholars, they will exercise their intelligence. But it's not as clear.